Ciao, 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 ciao. Herkese merhabalar. Hello to everyone. Today we will be speaking with Pierantonio Cantoni, who is from the Italian Association of Foreign Trade, which is AICE in Italian. AICE is an independent association which represents and supports Italian companies. I'll start from the beginning. I'm so sorry because I had a technical problem. So, okay. Pierantonio Cantoni is from AICE, and AICE is an independent association which represents and supports Italian companies dealing with international trade activities, both import and export, and interested in growing on foreign markets. So it's founded in 1946 as a member of Confcommercio Imprese per l'Italia, which is Italian General Confederation of Companies. Today, they represent the Italian companies that are committed predominantly to commercial activities abroad, trading, export, import, counter trade, as well as the services related to such activities. So, hello, Pierantonio. How are
Hi,
you?
how's it
Can
going?
we first say hi to you? Thank you for coming to today's speech, let's say.
Thanks for inviting me.
Is everything okay? You're still working from home, right?
Yeah. At the moment, I'm still working from home. We will see what's going on in the next week. Also, according to the new measures that have been released yesterday with the relaunch decree, and probably something will change. Not immediately. It will take some time. But for the time being, I'm still working from home.
Okay. Wait a moment. I have a problem with the sound. I see some comments about the sound. So sorry. Hello again. So let's start our speech. The government applied a lockdown to safeguard the public health, no, and closed all the non-essential industrial and commercial activities. So, what is the impact of this on the Italian economy?
Well, you know that almost 65% of the Italian companies have been affected by the lockdown, and it means all the activities, not essential activities. So shops were closed, restaurants were closed. The only activities that never stopped were the activities related to food, to health, to the pharmaceutical products, and related to energy and essential activities. So the impact on the economy has been really tough because we are talking about year on year. So considering the first quarter of 2020 compared to the first quarter of 2019, we are talking about minus 4.8% on the GDP. So it's a huge impact on the economy. But what we see now it's that most probably the worst is still to come in terms of the economy. Yeah.
Yes, I know that the International Monetary Fund has foreseen a decrease of the Italian GDP of at 9%.
Yeah.
So I think in the future there will be some big impacts on the economy to recover this
The
decrease.
forecast, the forecast for 2020 is minus 9% with the beginning of the recovery at the very end of this year. This means that most probably 2021 there will be a plus for something, but okay, those are
Not,
just forecasts. It's almost impossible to tell now. Also because we are considering the effects and the possible recovery of the economy without any idea of what will happen,
in the
if there will be a
future.
second wave or whatever. So, and of course, what is worse is that I'm just checking the figures now. We are expecting minus 6.2% on the export on the same period year on year, and minus 10 on import. So with also a decrease, a sharp decrease of the intra-EU trade, minus 12%. So, you know, in Italy, Italy is an economy that relies a lot on foreign trade, and the forecasts are really scary, because in the total 2020, the expected drop of the export is minus 15%. So it's a severe drop of the export. And and also the import side is very important, because, as you know, Italy is also a transformer of raw materials. So if we don't import raw materials, we don't have any manufacturing, and then we cannot re-export the products that everybody knows Italy for.
So what do you think about the government support on export and internationalization? Are there any supports, economic supports?
Well, yes, the relaunch decree that has been released yesterday evening, and it's like 300 pages, so I didn't read it completely, to be honest.
Me neither, don't worry. I saw there were like 225 articles, clauses.
Yeah.
Quite long and complicated.
Huge, and now also there are, so now there is this decree, but then they have to implement it. So it will take some time before all the measures will become effective. So, but anyway, there are some measures related to helping Italian companies in terms of liquidity. To mainly with Sacce and Simest. Sacce and Simest are two companies, part of the Ministry of the Economy. Sacce is the export credit agency of Italy, and Simest is the company that gives support mainly for investments, for recapitalization of the companies, and so on. So at the moment, there are some measures related to help the Italian companies with the liquidity, to get more money, more cash flow for export or import activities, more funds for the how can I say, more funds for credit cover on foreign credits, and some measures to help company to get stronger, to become stronger, and have a more solid capital. So those at the moment are the measures included in the relaunch decree. Then on the other side, there are also some small, because in this case we are talking about some billion euros. Then there is also the Italian Trade Agency, which is the Italian also government-owned company to help Italian companies to go abroad, that has 450 million euros more or less related to help Italian companies, or to pay for the Italian companies the participation to exhibitions, services related to foreign trade, and so on. But those at the moment are the two main aspects of the international trade.
Do you think the Italian small medium enterprises are satisfied with the government economic aids?
Well, let's say that
because we know that there were some problems with the banks.
With loans. Yes, you're right. Now it seems like they are speeding up those processes in order to give liquidity more fluidly to the companies without waiting too much time. And on the other hand, let's say that this is the third decree that gives money to the economy, to the people, and takes some measures. If we sum up all the measures, this relaunch decree is more or less 155 billion euros. If we sum up with the previous two ones, the total figures are not even close to 200 billion euros, which is anyway huge quantity of money. But we are the second manufacturing country in Europe and one of the most important. If we compare our measures, for example, to Germany, we see that Germany has much more money and much more, let's say, with much less bureaucracy than Italy. And this is mainly because Germany doesn't have a big problem of public debt like Italy. So they can give more money to the economy and make more debt. Italy, of course, there's a big problem related to the public debt, and you know also better than me that Italy has a primary surplus year on year, but the big problem are the payment of the interest of the debt. So if Italy wants to take more money, we need to find other measures to cover the expenses, not going directly to the market, because going directly to the market will create more debt. So this is the problem, and so the companies mainly are unsatisfied because they say that the measures are not enough. And I quite agree, because this is a shock that never happened in the history of Italy.
Of the world.
Of the world, yes, of course, but if we consider Italy, it's even worse than the Second World War.
Yes, many times they've declared the situation is worse than the Second War. So let's say every sector has got affected from the pandemic. Let's say which sectors are not affected from the pandemic. It will be easier for us.
Yeah, it's much easier to say which have not been affected, because for example the food sector is one of the sectors that has grown during the pandemic, and that's because mostly because we are Italian, so we are at home and we are cooking all the time.
We saw the videos of people making pizza at home.
Everybody is making pizza, cakes, pasta handmade, homemade. So yes, so that sector is have not been particularly affected by the pandemic, and the pharmaceutical sector have been in a good health in this period, let's say, because of course in Italy we have a very good pharmaceutical companies, and some of them, for example, are active in finding a vaccine for the pandemic, and some others are active in all the testing for all the tests for the COVID-19. So that sector has gone well in this period. All the other sectors, of course, are suffering, and most of all the commercial activities, the restaurants, the hotels that have seen a drop of tourism, a drop of more than 80% on the commercial activities in this period.
Have you noticed any, since we could only go to the supermarkets during the lockdown, did you notice any increase in the prices on the necessity goods like food, or have you noticed anything in this period?
Looked like, yes, at the beginning mostly for the fresh fruits and vegetables, and also for the flour and those primary goods. That could have been in some cases because of the shortage of the supply. That might have an effect on the final price. But after the first period, most of the most important supermarket chains they declare to block the prices, fix the prices, and not increase anything. And to be honest, it looks like they did it, and they maintain. So now, if you go to the supermarket, more or less the price are normal.
So, do you think the demand for international markets will decrease in this case?
There's, let's say, as I told you, Italy is a country that relies mostly on export and import, on international trade. This year there will be a massive drop in the international trade, and we are expecting a slight recovery in 2021. We are seeing also that some countries are trying to protect themselves and protect their economy from the foreign markets or from the foreign competitors. So, for example, of course, we are all seeing the campaigns of the America closing the borders and increasing the duties, but that's not the only one, of course. And then there are some other countries which are trying to protect their internal market, not selling abroad some primary goods. So, for example, there have been a couple of issues with Russia, with Uzbekistan for the wheat. And then some other cases from Southeast Asia, where the countries were not allowing the companies to export rice, which is a staple food for them. In some cases this is bad. Let's say it's bad in any case, but in some cases it's worse, because as I told you, Italy, we make a lot of pasta, and everybody knows Italian pasta, but 50% of the Italian pasta is made with foreign wheat, not with Italian wheat. So if we don't import wheat, we cannot produce pasta, basically. And, yeah.
So we can say that there have been blocks on international trade due to the new protectionist measures on primary goods. But do you think the countries are self-sufficient? Like, can they rely on the internal market?
No country anywhere, I think, is self-sufficient. It's almost an utopia right now to talk about self-sufficiency for the countries. I told you we rely a lot, even if everybody knows us for our export and our exporting of food and so on, but everything that we export as a component of imported material. As I told you, pasta, for example, but if we talk about furniture, we are very good in the design and manufacturing and so on, but most of the woods are not from Italy. That's quite simple. Or if we are talking about, I don't know, the automotive sector, most of the parts, they come from all over Europe, some cases all over the world.
Also from Turkey.
Also from Turkey. If we're talking for example, in the fashion sector, a lot of suppliers of the fashion houses in Italy are from Turkey.
The producers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
exactly.
anyhow, in this period, there was no problem on trade on goods, let's say, apart from the some blocks of some countries. But can we say it was regular trade between countries
There
on the
have been some
customs?
issues. There have been some issues because, for example, other countries blocking the borders. One example is Austria, and so it was like a breach in the Schengen Agreement, and it's been quite a bad move from the Austrian government, and of course Italy brought this case to the European Union. Apart from that, the goods have been traded regularly, also from, I don't know, from China during the worst period of the lockdown in China. Goods were coming to Italy quite regularly. The only problem is not related to the customs. Sorry, but people keep calling me. The only problem is not related to the customs, but it's related to the transportations, because now nobody's flying, and a big portion of the flight is dedicated to the goods. So even if we don't know it, when we are sitting on a plane, that plane is carrying also goods. And that part has been completely stopped because there are no passengers flights. Then, because of the problems, for example, in the ports, because there were not people working, because they were in lockdown, because they were sick or whatever, there have been big delays in the deliveries, mainly from Far East. Now, at the moment, the situation seems quite normal. Normal. Maybe you are also thinking about all the problems with the DPI that have been stopped in the customs everywhere in Europe. So the DPI means the personal protection equipment, sorry. So there have been some issues also with that, because at the beginning of the pandemic, all the governments, so including Italian government, have stopped and how can I say, they took everything coming from abroad if it was not for public emergency and public use. So that was the beginning of the pandemic. Now things are quite different, of course, because now there is a process of where the hospitals, the Protezione Civile, all the public services are covered with their personal protection equipment. But at the beginning, yes, there have been quite a problem about that.
Maybe we can say the countries were a bit precautious because they didn't know what they were expecting. They needed to also protect their internal case, their citizens, their country. So
some countries were also, and I think also Turkey, they were blocking the export of those materials, and that's quite understandable. What happened is that some countries tried to, since Italy is a very important country in terms of logistics, but there are other countries which are much more important than us in Europe, like the Netherlands or like Germany. And in some cases, they try to stop goods direct to Italy when they were passing through Germany, for example. So let's say that's another form of what I've seen so far. In some cases, we saw some cracks, let's say some minor cracks in the European Union, a lot of frictions and some cracks in the whole implant of what is European Union during this pandemic.
Which in this period we should have seen the fruits of European Union. But I think there were some cracks, as you say.
Yeah.
What do you think? Let's say, there are a lot of Turkish companies and citizens who invest in Italy and who still want to invest in Italy, because we get a lot of requests still, even in this pandemic period.
Yeah.
And so, since there's no vaccine to stop the pandemic, do you think the investment in Italy will get affected? Because Italy has this reputation being the first, unfortunately, the country who got affected from the pandemic. So
Yeah.
that's
I have a map in front of me, made by ISPI, which is one of the most important think tank in Italy for international economy and politics, and they are expecting a decrease of something around 14% of the investments in Italy. So quite a sharp decrease of the investments. To be honest, I think that it's just a participation of the investments. I don't think
it will stop.
that will stop the investments at all. And in some other cases, I'm expecting to see more investments. So, for example, in all the sectors where Italy is famous but suffering a lot during the pandemic, so the tourism, hotels, and so on, I'm expecting to see a lot of investments from abroad coming to buy invest in Italy.
So I'm expecting, as a lawyer, a lot of bankruptcy cases in this period. And what do you think? You know that this can be also an advantage to invest, because also, like for the Turkish companies, they like to buy companies, Italian brands, Italian know-how. Could this be an opportunity? What do you think?
I think yes, that was basically what I was thinking about. So I think that most of the foreign investments will come and try to buy at a discount price, like Saldi. They were trying to buy some excellencies with some financial problems, or in bankruptcy or before bankruptcy. But that's what I'm expecting, because Italy as a country is one of the countries with the highest financial backup in terms of families. So compared to the United States or UK, where the families and the people are full of debt. In Italy, it's the opposite. But this is not the case for the companies. So the companies are relatively undercapitalized, so less prepared to face a big crisis like this.
What do you think about the fairs? I'm so curious. There have been a lot of fairs in Italy. Like, Italy is the center of the international fairs, like the furniture fair. It's, when you go to Piazza Duomo in Milan, it's full of Turkish people, basically. I feel like I'm in Turkey during the fair periods. Are they postponed? And maybe it's hard to foresee right now, because we don't know if the second wave will come. But what is your opinion? I know your association is very involved. You always organize fairs to invest in Italy, or B2B meetings. What do you think?
At this point, it's almost impossible to say what's going on. So it's all the important events have been cancelled and postponed to 2021. And I think that as sad as it is, but it's the only thing we can do, because with the decree of the president of the ministers, that was released, I think, on Sunday. Italy will reopen the borders for the Schengen countries on June the 3rd.
Yes.
First of all, it's Schengen countries, so it's not every country. And secondly, only if nothing else happens in the meantime. So if the curve of the contagious will grow, there will be new measures, and there will be another restrictive measures that will be implemented. So at the moment, I think that even me, because I had a lot of international trips, exhibitions, and I had to cancel everything. And I think that we just need to plan the 2021 directly for the international activity and international exhibitions. The Fashion Week has been cancelled. Vinitaly has been cancelled, so the most important and famous exhibitions have been postponed to 2021. Salone del Mobile as well, which is, you know, it's sad because those events are in Italy. They are not just the exhibition. As you said, during an international exhibition, you walk around Milan and it's plenty of people, events. The city is so alive, and it's really beautiful to be in there during that period. But at this point of the time and with the situation, it's not possible to keep on with those activities.
So I won't take your time a lot. Last question. I want to know if there are any government plans to attract foreign investment in this period.
Well, to be honest, Italy has always been lacking on this aspect. We advise also the government as an association, and we sit on the most important tables related to foreign trade, and we've been trying to pass the idea of a stronger foreign investment policy in order to attract foreign investments in Italy. But there's nothing like one-stop shop in Italy, for example, for investments. There are no big or particular measures in order to facilitate investments abroad. I don't know, tax holidays or something like that. So not yet, and I think it will not be something in the very, very near future.
I totally agree with you. But let's see, it's very early to have a provision about what will happen in the near future.
Well, let's say it's not a priority at the moment.
Yes, it's not a priority. Or maybe can we think the vice versa, like bringing foreign investment to the country because the economy is quite dying.
Yeah. Let's say that
Foreign
in my
capital.
opinion, in this moment, it's the most important moment to sign free trade agreements. It's the most important moment to attract companies to come and invest in Italy. It's the most important moment to help Italian companies to go abroad. But as we say in Italy, la coperta è corta. So the cover is short, so if you have to spend money on one aspect, which might be the healthcare system or anything else, like the pension funds or something like that, you cannot spend those money in something else, unfortunately. So I'm not expecting anything very, very soon on this.
Thank you very much for your participation and your opinions. For me, it was really useful. I hope for the other participants. In any case, I will share our conversation. So if people are not able to watch because we have a certain time and it's not very easy to organize,
Of course.
And so I'm sure we will keep in touch. And
Definitely.
and I hope we will see those days where we start again to organize seminars, also like we did in Turkey. I hope we will go again together a second time, maybe this time to Istanbul. Let's see.
That would be
Who
nice.
knows?
That would be nice. You know, Italian and Turkish are quite similar, and I think that
Hmm.
what we miss most during this period is social life.
Yes, to
Definitely.
connect, because also the Italians, like Turkish people, they close a deal by seeing each other, by talking, by going to dinners. That's how we do. That's interaction,
Yeah.
so socializing. Otherwise, not like other European countries, northern, let's say. Um, I hope,
It's more a face-to-face
yes,
relation. Yeah.
true.
And now, you know, most of the Italians are doing happy hours or aperitivi on Skype with friends, but it's not the same.
It's not the same, unfortunately. I tried that, but it doesn't give the
Doesn't
same
work.
satisfaction.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it and see you soon. Ciao, Pier Antonio. Thank you.
Ciao, Ozgun. Grazie.
Ciao. Ciao.
Ciao.